Hello dear patrons, welcome to PlayTalk11. This time it's our beloved Elgar Concerto, which I have to rehearse tomorrow near Vienna in Grafenegg with the European Union Youth Orchestra and Pablo Eras Casado. We're having concerts on Saturday, August 7 in Grafenegg. It's a festival outside of Vienna, I guess. And in Bolzano, northern Italy, on Monday, August 9. And I left a message to the conductor, Pablo Eras Casado, whom I know since quite a while. And I told him how much I was looking forward to meeting him. And since we have only little rehearsal time, I wanted to warn him already about my interpretation. Although actually there's nothing special about my interpretation except that I take what Elgar wrote pretty serious, as he's very detailed and very precise, and because I think he's a great composer. So a great composer probably had something in his mind when he writes some passages differently each time. I'll come to that later. I probably mentioned that already in a couple of other talks and lessons, and if ever you watched me, you know I try to take it serious what the composer wrote, and if it really doesn't make any sense, then I leave it behind. Or I try to find my own way with it. But I try not to take any interpretation of another artist as my role model. As much as I, for example, love the recording of Jacqueline DuPre with Barenboim, but it's her interpretation. It's her very personal outlook on that gorgeous piece. And she was very young. Elgar was very old when he wrote it, so you could claim that maybe it wasn't about young love, although what Jacqueline DuPre does with it is absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. But maybe she's missing the point Elgar tried to make. I think it's more about loss and despair, rather. And yeah, the British Empire was in shambles. His wife had just died, I think, and he was an old man. So life came to an end, and it was not a nice end. So I would not, whatever I would or would not, first I tried to take serious what the composer had to write. So enough talk. We'll try to play this beginning already. Elgar puts fortissimo, but nobilmente. So I don't think it has to be an aggressive beginning. It should rather be thoughtful and I mean, obviously big enough, grandioso in a way, but he doesn't write grandioso. He puts that later, so he puts nobilmente. And he puts metronome markings, which are not that slow. So I whenever somebody plays it for me, I try to encourage them to just first think the melody and then add the chords. But I will just play this opening right now. So actually this last note has to stop with a change of the woodwind chord, so I shouldn't even do a big diminuendo there. As you can see, I'm trying to keep a pulse, so I try to really, I'm not counting, but in my inside I'm trying to do this. Sometimes I hear students in classes take a huge break for so I think that's one commas too many. I mean, I unfortunately lost my part with, there's nothing. There is a sforzato for this C. But I always encourage players to not always think sforzatos are accents, like a but in this case maybe really just deep into the string. This instead of it's not a gesture, it's more deep felt pain. Orchestra takes over, and then we have this little bridge, which I might be wrong, but and it is true. Elgar puts this little roof over the F sharp, so and I promised myself not to say so all the time. I heard I was editing a video, and each time I started I said so, like what is so? So no more so. This bridge. So for the F sharp he puts a little roof over the note, so people could think it's an accent, but somehow I don't like that accent. So I try to play the downbeats. The downbeats, the D sharps. So with this F sharp I try to blend over into the violas, which are now playing the main subject of the first movement. About this bridge again, obviously I'm ignoring the roof right now, but somehow I don't know, I like the ta 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 pa pa. So this you could think because of the roof it should be. That's how it's normally being played, and people who do that have a point because of this little sign. But it's not an accent sign. I don't even know exactly what the sign means. I don't know if Elgar really knew what he meant. I just prefer the downbeat. The downbeat is the... and so on and so on. Now comes the biggest change of my interpretation versus most other players which I've heard so far, is that this beginning was subtitled, or the tempo of this very beginning is adagio, with metronome marking of 56, which I think I had quite close. Now, if you only know the piece and you have never seen the music, I would ask you, what do you think is the next subject? What's the tempo there? Not metronome, but just the expression. And it's moderato. It's not adagio anymore. It's not a largo either. It's not even an andante. It's a moderato. And he puts even a metronome marking of 66, which is quite fast. And his original bowing, for me as well as for the violas before, is one bow per bar, which I think makes perfectly sense, as we don't have to play that loud. There's not much going on in the orchestra, so we could actually really play this melody as if it's already going, and it's already going on for a while. The violas are playing it before, so we're just joining into that melody of the violas. So I would even suggest not to make it ritardando before we come in. The cellos have a little bit crescendo before the solo cello comes in, so that they play ta da 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 dee da dee da da. Well, that was horrible. Well, the problem, the point I try to make is so I have this long line. I try to create a vibrato, a legato with a vibrato, and the vibrato should go also over the small notes, so that it's not. So there's a lot of vibrato on the longer note and on the, it's a semiquaver, isn't it? 8th note, I always get confused with these expressions. So I try to, like a singer, having a vibrato, not a lot of vibrato, but going through. But this, it's a pretty difficult, dangerous shift, which I just missed. I will try it again. And I try to, you will see, I try to play it as soft as I can, and when I get to the lower strings, you will see me add more weight and more sound, just because I'm going in a lower register. And from my experience playing with orchestra, we get kind of washed out down there. So, another try. I shouldn't have taken a shower right before playing, but I was so sweaty. I saw myself in the mirror. I thought, oh, I cannot go online like that. So this scale, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the scale comes twice. So the first time Elgar says poco allargando. So actually what I played right now was about poco allargando, if not even a bit more. But if you know the piece well, you know often people take much more time there. So, I said so again. No so. The scale again. And I just changed my fingering. It doesn't work quite well yet. But I was going to mention that fingering because actually it's better than what I did before. So I do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And before that I did 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 at the end, which is one shift too many. And well, I played it better than what I played right now, but because I just changed the fingering yesterday. So I hadn't touched the cello for 10 days, and I started practicing again, daily routines on Monday. And actually, this afternoon I practiced. I felt quite good in shape, but right now it doesn't really work so well. So you saw the point I tried to make. We start very, very soft on one bow, the subject. So almost like somebody's just having this thought, this melancholic thought, without too much, oh God, I shouldn't break this bow, without too much shaking the gates. So it's just flowing. Later he separates the bow when we, after the long B and the violins take the subjects, then so we play then always 3 8 notes on one bow. We have to make sure that we don't suddenly get much louder because of that. But once the brass comes in, he notates for us fortissimo. So there we really have to go for it because there are these big brass chords and they're always behind. So that's often why people slow down, including myself right now. I was kind of anticipating the slowing down of the brass. That's a mean one because there's a sforzato on this. So I'm really not so good anymore with talking and playing at the same time. Sorry. So we have to accelerate our bow speed on that D. I mean, if you do the same bowing like I do, to have it in the up bow. And most people take a little bit time here with actually no reason other than there's a very nice harmony change. So one can enjoy that, but it shouldn't be more than that. Sometimes it feels like a poco sostenuto, which it shouldn't be, it doesn't need to be. It's just this brass chord changes on the third beat. So the, not so. So I do the fortissimo again. This shift I don't manage. I was just thinking, I forgot to say that once we start with the 16th notes, we cannot play with too much bow. So if we play them too loud, we end up in no position to play the last note well. So we have to focus our bow action on a minimum. And then, actually, no, that was a little bit better. We have a chance to play that last note not much softer than the notes before. I mean, the orchestra takes over anyway. But if we are very loud before, and then this last note is completely anticlimactic. And I don't think, if a composer writes poco allargando, a composer who can write molto ritardando, he says it later, and he's a good composer, he knows all these expressions. So poco allargando is just getting a little bit larger, so we hand it over to the orchestra tutti, which is continuing the same material, so there's no big interruption necessary just because we play a scale. So one last try. There was a better sforzato. Not too loud, please. So that was a little cowardish. I slowed down more than I thought because I wanted to play it in tune for once. Another good point. People slow down that it's easier. So to play that with more speed, as I will have to do the second time this comes around, because the second time I will attach the score at some point. Not today and not tomorrow, but once I edit a little bit that live stream here, I will add it to the posting, the score. And you will see that the same scale, Elgar puts allargando a bar before, or 2 bars before, largamente. He writes a largamente the bar before, and on the bar of the scale, he has a tempo. So he wants that scale in tempo, and he doesn't want us to take time. There's no allargando, which makes musically a lot of sense, because then 2 bars later, he comes with a molto sostenuto entrance of the cello. So if we stop 1.5 bars before already, yeah, we take momentum away. So that's the first page. But actually I wanted to see if I can get a better line for the opening. What I played before. I wanted to warm up, and then suddenly time was out. Oh, I had to put a little bit of order here because it was a mess. Well, you think that's a mess? It's much more mess normally. So the very beginning I tried to play as long of a line as possible. Now I just, with my neck, brought the C string down. Very sorry for that.
just open the window with, if you have something to tell me. Hello everybody, thanks for saying hi. Just now I can see if you tell me something like sound is too loud or too soft. Make comments, I can read it. If I really focus hard. Another try. And you see I tried to have a rather fast retake so that there is some kind of line. It's not easy. The quick retake, I saw a very good lesson with that in the Elgar Celloconcerto with PlayTalk11. So to be quite slow in the action here and then very quick, which he did by scaring the student. He was screaming at the students. It was like, change, change. So he screamed, and with the shock, he did a better retake. And there shouldn't be a big hole in between. So, okay, that's not. I'd like to know how I should. Okay, there's a question. 1 second. GZ. I'd like to know how I should do the accents and sforzandos be played in the string crossing passage of the fourth movement. That will come later. String crossings in the, you mean the whole thing, This passage is really hard. Talking about PlayTalk11, I saw him once getting lost there and having to restart. I did the same once. It's a brutal passage because we have to, as you just saw, I played as loud as I could because there's winds playing, and whenever woodwinds are playing, we tend to be covered. So we really have to provide a good sound for that. So slowly, with just as much legato playing. So, not so. Why do I say so? What a bad habit. I was reading an article where people use these unnecessary words, and I thought I didn't have any of those. Except when I have to play, then I always think I have to say something before I start playing. Yes, so, no, not so! I'm very sorry. We have to play this passage as much in the string as possible, to almost like a melodical line, and to practice it slowly, as I just showed. And I would suggest the bow, I would suggest to start with up bow. So we have the swells in the down bow, which I find easier than playing. Because then we have the diminuendo so close to the frog, and that's really awkward. I mean, one can do it, but it's much more work. And the plays, believe me, is hard enough. I mean, I'm always happy if I survive that. You can always, I saw a video of mine playing it, and I seemed quite relaxed, and once that passage came, I closed my eyes and I was focusing because it is intonation-wise, sound-wise, memory-wise, really dangerous. And you have to articulate well, but you shouldn't get too tired. This that is, after the whole passage, very, very tiring, especially on my cello, because the position is so high. Yeah, it's not an easy place there. But back to the first movement, I wanted to do the beginning one more time with a better arch. And I try not to break the chord too much, so not this one. What is that? That is actually, for me, that's not music. I'm sorry. We need as round as possible. We should not think cello. Elgar was not a cellist. He was a great composer and a great orchestrator. So we should play that as orchestral as possible. So as round, for me, as round as possible. Here comes the 3, 4. Because I don't like to do the whole head shaking, I always have a good talk with the conductor before, and I ask him to just come down with a downbeat and I will meet him there. So, not so. 3, and then that's his head, his hand, so not, God, I'm so sorry. I probably should take a speech therapy to avoid these so's. Now when I was young, I had a very bad experience with my nerves. My bow was shaking in a competition playing the slow movement of the Beethoven D major sonata. And my mother told me afterwards that the famous Russian director Stanislavski had said that we should always not be completely indulged in what we do. We should always have like a little control mechanism to be above us. And I was thinking of that now because right now I'm a little bit above myself, watching myself and calling myself out when I say so. So, no, not again. Where was I? Yeah, that was the beginning. I thought it was a bit better to have the longer line of this melody. It's a melody. So beautiful, simple, as what happens afterwards. So to have it less nervous. Also, there is no big ritardando down there. Sorry, I should take this away and go back to the other things. Thank you, Ivan, for saying that you hate the breaking. I do too. But it happens. It's just what we learn. Ivan Lusa is writing that he doesn't like when people break these chords. But it's how we learn chords. So, but that's not a chord. That's 2 double stops. A chord is that. So I was teaching one very gifted, non-professional, I hate the word amateur. He's a very good cellist, Philip from Munich, and I taught him within 10 minutes to play 3 strings at the same time. And you can do that on every cello. I tried it really on the worst Chinese cello. You have to just adjust pressure, bow speed, and contact point. You have to adjust how to do that. And so if you can do the 3, you cannot do 4 at once. So, well, that's almost 4. So we could practice it, but then a little breaking is fine. And here it's a problem because we cannot, well, at last, we could. Oh yeah, I've never tried that. But I'm too close to the A string. The A string has to swing freely as is an open string. So I'm always, I have a cramp. I'm always breaking it as gently as possible, but I play. So I do 3-1. But it would be nice to do. Okay, I will try next time. Which would be in 2 days. That's not bad. Thank you, Ivan, for telling me you hate the breaking, because I just caught myself breaking a chord, and I will practice that tomorrow. How do you like that, honestly? Is it too thin? I've never tried that fingering, but that is not so difficult. So I'm doing 1, 2, 3. Anyway, you don't have to answer. No answer is an answer as well. After this first page, and after the big tutti, we play the subject again, and this time Elgar still rides one bow over the whole bar, but he rides mezzo forte, so I'm splitting my bow a little. I do 3-3 and then 4-2, so it's not always the same splitting. So I would suggest no ritardando there. Yes, a new section happens. There is a fermata over the E in the cellos, not us. So we should just continue the move. He doesn't write a ritardando, and the ritardando is not needed. They keep on holding, and then the winds come with their ta-dum, ta-da-da-dee-da-dee-dum. And again, we don't have to play super loud here. Good substance, but not massive. And we should, or I am always encouraging the strings to play this rhythm really well. Often it's dragging. We should keep the same 66, root 66. We should keep it flowing. It makes a lot of sense. I know if you're really so ingrained in the interpretation of Jacqueline DuPre, I'm playing far too fast for you. But this is what Elgar had in mind, and as beautiful as it is what she's doing, it's a different piece. And if the composer wants... why do I play so out of tune? If he wants that, we shouldn't play... this tragic thing. But I'm going to stop now. It's of no interest what other people do. I'm trying to make my point what I'm doing. So no ritardando there. We continue. Then piano. Now it's pianissimo. And that maybe was a little bit too thin. So when I would like to give it a bit more air, so there's this flautando feeling, but we need the overtones, so not so, Mr. Gerhardt. We need the overtones. This is why I try to not go too much to the fingerboard, but play with a bit, with as little weight as possible. I could see, if I can see it, you can see it as well. I was not close to the bridge, but close enough. So this kind of quality will definitely help us to stand above whatever's going on in the orchestra. It's not going on much anyway, but we need the difference from the piano. Why I'm playing this so short? It is not da dum pa da. He's writing da 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 dee da da. Somehow it entered my brain, and for the longest time I was always playing this rather short. Or is that what people do? And I just got it. Should be legato. Another try. Now it was out of tune. And this all is pianissimo. So we have a little bit of a hairpan going, getting louder. Playing that, I don't want to sing all the time, and I'm such a bad singer, but I'm feeling all the rhythmical things going on in the orchestra, this ta-dum, ta-da, dee, da-dum, ta-da, and whenever we play this rhythm, it should never be like a comma, like a little appoggiatura. It's really spoken. Ta da da dee, ta. What am I playing? Of course, I shouldn't stop. So after this pianissimo, so we could go quite soft there, and then there's this nice, which is a sounding G natural, but it's a double F sharp. So not so. But I get there, I promise. I'm sorry for bothering you with my silly speech impediment, but if I don't call myself out, I will never manage. Thanks, Ivan. Glad you like it. Play the second. Ivan claims that the second page is being played way too slow. Well, normally I feel people speed it up when we come to the winds. Ta-dum, ta-da, but it should be the same tempo. So if we have a good basic tempo, then we're actually fine for the middle part, for the second page. The verse is coming up. So there we have this. And so on. And so on. What I just did was actually almost as I had in mind, but it never works with the orchestra, and I tell you why. Elgar is writing this long accelerando from here. And you know what the violins are doing in the same time. They play pa 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 pa. When we hold this ti ta 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 da da tam, pa da ta ta da ti tam. And at the end of each phrase, they have a diminuendo. Because of that diminuendo, they slow a little bit down. So I've hardly ever had a convincing stringendo. He says poco. Doesn't have to be much, but actually what I did now was a poco stringendo. I don't dare to do it again because I nailed this. I nailed this run, which often doesn't work, but I'm so stubborn. I want this on one string. So, not so. From there, the poco stringendo. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, how does it go? 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I counting the right thing? Yeah. Would have been embarrassing if I got all the bars wrong. You get my point. Because, as you know the piece, this similar material is coming in again, but next time he goes, he puts these different levels in. Di, pa, 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 pa. Oh, not he doesn't put the different levels in. He lets us play the melody the violins play before, and he puts it in fortissimo and different bowing, so, and no stringendo. So I think there he wants it more labored. And he puts the high note, this G, while at the first place it is still in the stringendo. So da ba 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 di da ta ta da. The second time, and this is what I mentioned before in my opening speech, he has these parallel places and he is quite precise in saying something different, how he wants it to be played. So the first time he starts the ritardando not until, Gerhard, the second half of the bar. So, not so. Oh, how do you like my fingering? So I'm going with the first finger here, and then thumb, thumb, sorry. So thumb, thumb. It's actually, I mean, I haven't practiced it enough. I just changed that fingering a few days ago. But it gives us the brilliance of the A string. I mean, it would be much easier to play. But I don't like to have it on one string is so much more dramatic and so much more vocal. So they don't, well, I couldn't even sing. Yeah, but it's out of tune. Change the bow together with some winds changing notes, so it's actually not audible. But he puts it largamente and tenuto, and as you could see, I was taking a little bit of time for that. And in order for me to sound good on that G, I need more bow speed. So if I would play it on one bow, maybe it sounded okay with that microphone, but with my earplugs, I know farther away that note sounded ba 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 ba, like not really there. So in order to have a full sound, I take the compromise of changing bow on that long note. I don't have to do that the first time though, because there we have so much momentum going forward. We are still in the stringendo, ti da ta da da ti da, but The second time. Ta 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 ti da ti tam. This here is a very long note, by the way. I've all my life held it too short until a conductor pointed out. This actually goes 3 more beats into the next bar. Ta-dum, ta-da-da-dee-da-dum. Same like before. One, two, three, one. This is a tricky place because he puts on that bar a sudden largamente and a fermata on the F sharp. So largamente, fermata. And then he wants to continue. I managed to get that place together with the orchestra because I let the conductor lead it. So I tell the conductor to do, I think to go in 6 or whatever he does, but to conduct the pa-da-dum, pa 1, 2, 3, 1, da dee dum. It's not 1, 2, 3, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And then go back. But if he doesn't lead that, and we have to make sure that after the fermata 4, 5, 6, I still want to hear the rhythm. And the rhythm is pa ta ti ta, not ta 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 ti. It's quarter 8 note. Pum 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 pa. It's like somebody is holding us and then let's go. Not a complete different thing. Not just like I can hold the bow longer than you. Very important is the pianissimo before this. I see people in lessons when I teach play that far too loud. I mean, if you play it too loud, then the difference to the next one, to the largamente, which is forte, is non-existent. So play the pianissimo in tempo. So that's the piano. Please in tune. Last try. 5, 6. Did you see what I was doing? I was in the string, and for the E I went completely out. 4, 5, 6, 1. I mean, I didn't go all the way to the fingerboard, but I released my weight and I probably went about 2 centimeters away from the bridge. So I was faking it a bit. But we need to get back to the frog, but in time. I don't want the... It needs to be, as I said, the 8th note have to continue. Da dum pa da da dee da dee da. We here I ask the violas to take a little bit of time, and each time I ask it, it becomes a huge ritardando. It's really the problem with making any kind of music together. As soon as you point something out, a time you want to take, a color you want to change, once it's spoken, it's already too much. So that's why I actually hate talking in rehearsals. I just always hope they just feel what I'm going to do and then come with me. And sometimes it works, but sometimes you have to say it. And then I already know, okay, sometimes I stop and say, no, that was too much now. But actually, once the damage is done, if you give a musician the chance to take time, he will take the time. Musicians love to take time. especially when they work with somebody like me who is so stingy with taking time. But I think our job as musicians is to be careful with where we want to express what. If we always express the same self-import, no, then it gets boring. So we need variety of taking times. Sometimes a little bit more and sometimes a little bit less. So, not so. We'll be getting... Because here in my part at least he puts 4 and 2, 4 and 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Not 4 and 2, what am I saying? 2 and 1 beats with one bow. Which is actually, I mean, it's more difficult than it looks. Because we don't want... We don't want that to stick out. So we have to be quite in the string, especially... So you see, when I have the up bow, I'm trying to get out of the string, and as soon as I change to the down bow again, I try to get back. For all non-cellists, I don't know if any non-cellists are watching this, it's probably super boring, but that's the challenges we have. I talked a lot about it. In Bach, we have the... And anything... Or... it's the quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Here it's a slow one, but doesn't get much easier. A tempo. Hey, that worked. Well, now I'm warmed up. Should have done that before. So maybe I was exaggerating, trying to make the point, but actually, in a nutshell, this is what Elgar was writing. Here's the largamento. And it all depends on my dear colleagues in the cello section, because they're playing ta 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 ti ta tam. Why we are playing ta ta ti ta ti tam, and then they have to go ba 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 bi ba bam, and they don't. I rehearsed it so often, and I tried to get them in tempo, and they all yeah, let's do that, cool idea. And when it comes to the point, hardly anybody dares to really go forward. So I don't know if it's the tradition or if that's really just musically so strange. If we, as what I said before, if we tell a musician to take time somewhere, it's difficult to take it away. And so Elgar tells us to take time here, the first time. Poco allargando. Here he doesn't. And somehow that's a strange feeling. I remember, I won't say any names, but I did it with a very nice conductor. And a lady, wonderful musician, very good conductor. And she was all with me in the rehearsals, in the dress rehearsal, and in the concert. She conducted a huge ritardando there. But I saw it, so I waited. But it's just so ingrained, I guess, tradition or not. Okay, here's another question. GZ asks, what do you focus on when analyzing music? Maybe you could do a video on the topic because there's a lot to cover. Well, I I don't really analyze all that much. It's all what I'm saying here is not analytical. It's just taking whatever Elgar wrote serious and knowing the score. I mean, that's helpful if we know what's going on in the orchestra. I don't know it as well. I know it more from listening. I haven't really studied the printed score. I don't own a printed score. I own the piano part, and I know the piece well, played it whatever 150 times, but I didn't really analyze it. I don't think it's necessary to analyze this. The composer didn't analyze what they wrote. They just wrote it. So it's the analytical work can sometimes take the magic away. I think it's like explaining a magic trick, and then it's not that magic anymore. So I don't really need to know why this one brass chord is so beautiful. It is, and I know it makes me feel a certain way. I don't need to know the name of that chord. For me, that takes away from the magic, but maybe it's just a cheap excuse and because I'm just lazy. But otherwise, I think there must be a video how I approach pieces, how I learn them. It's quite simple. I just don't listen to anything recorded, but just read the music, play the music, know other pieces by the composer, but otherwise the piece itself, no piece is that complicated that we really need to analyze it. Well, maybe some Schönberg, I guess. But there's not that much. Oh, but the Schönberg cello concerto, no need to analyze, you just have to practice a whole lot. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so I played the scale in tempo. Whether you like it or not, I don't even care. It's what Elgar wrote, and I think it makes musical sense, because after that the passage goes on. The orchestra plays da 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 ti da 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 ti, and then we come in and it's like, stop! We scream at them. We like, no, I have something important to say. So there we have to stop, not before. So if we stop it before, then the whole machine starts running again, and then I say stop. It's too much stops. So we let it run. Ti ta ti ta pa pa pa. And here Elgar doesn't write anything, but I just took time, because we go from fortissimo to pianissimo in 3/8 notes. So I'm sorry, that needs some time. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 1, but that's ridiculous. So I'm sure Elgar wouldn't mind, and even if he minds, this is what I mean. I take it very serious what he writes, but at the end I have to present that piece and I have to make sense of it. So to play that without any time taking would be, in my eyes, stupid. Even though the composer didn't write it, so I'm not treating anything like a Bible. I try to make the suggestions the composer puts in, I try to make them work, and if a composer has 2 different places notated differently, then I will definitely respect that, because it was obviously important enough for him to write it down, and he wants us to give more variety to it. He doesn't want us to play the same thing twice, which I have already said 100 times, sorry. That could be in tune. I was just wondering if I should talk now or after. The subject comes 4 times. Yeah, so the first time I played on the A string on 1 bow, piano. The next time I played also on the A string, but in 2 bows. A bit more extrovert. So, and I do 1, 2, 3. I do 2 equal and then 2 and 1. The third time it comes, I do the original bowing he suggests, like. A bit more introvert again, piano, as he writes, and the last time I go pianissimo on one bow and I stay on the D and G string to give it a more, like almost giving up. He tried to say it 4 different times and still people didn't listen, so resignation in a way. So, not so, please stop this. Without the so, fortissimo. Oh, I forgot to say, if we play this, there's always pop-a-bum. I don't know if you know that, and there are 2 different versions. It's 30-second notes, pop-a-bum, or pop-a-bum. I think 2 different editions, and I love it if it's in between. So, pop-a-bum, pop-a-bum. It shouldn't be pop-a-bum, like something energetic, but it shouldn't be pop-a-bum either. So, pop-a-bum. It's the timpani, isn't it? Yeah, timpani is having this pop-a-bum, pop-a-bum, like a little fade, not knocking the door. That's not knocking the door, but kind of giving its old blessing to it. It's so bad. Well, it just shows this piece is not very difficult, I thought. But when I play it, I have to be very concentrated, and talking and playing. So I lost tempo now and I slowed down. Nothing he wrote, but I think he will forgive me. It's the end of this movement, and if we come to a rest, I think that's completely legal in a way. I'm sorry, I will continue because I don't feel like stopping now. We have these chords of the beginning, and I would try. So to really have the same pulse like at the very beginning. It says, well, it's adagio, it's lento this time, so it doesn't have to be quite as fast, but I would not go much slower. So 1, 2, 3, 4, pa, 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 pa. And now comes the second movement, subtitled Allegro molto. And I will show you exactly what Elgar wrote. So this was quite exactly what Elgar is writing. So he starts this whole bridge to this last movement. So Allegro molto, the first bar without anything. The ritardando, which he puts for the second bar, starts on the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4 has a fermata, But this fermata shouldn't be an entire bar, or shouldn't be 3 beats or something. It should just be 1, 2, 3, 4. But and then it should surprisingly, it's like this little thought comes in his mind. And then it's there again. And again. And each time he moves the ritardando ahead. So first time, no ritardando. 4. And then the second time, the ritardando starts in the middle of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, actually a tempo again, but then the ritardando molto. And I hate so much when people do. No, it's still a chord. Arpeggio, so you can do it a slow arpeggio, a fast arpeggio, a very slow arpeggio, or even slower, but ploof, ploof, ploof. No, if you wanted that, he would have really written 8 note, 8 note, 8 note. And yes, thing is, the great cellists, they play it different. And maybe one great cellist suddenly took a little bit more time, like this. But still, pum, pum, pum. And then somebody imitates it, like, oh, I like. I'm so musical. No, that is not music, that's just a caricature. Next, a tempo. Bum, bum. But a tempo is so. The problem here is that conductors go immediately in 2, so they go. But it doesn't resemble anything of the initial tempo. So the initial tempo should be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, pass. Okay, this is suddenly lento, but often they do just half speed. Bum, 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 which is pretty lame, isn't it? Maybe it should be slower than half speed. That would be nice. We have an accelerando, so oof. Bum, 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 bum. And watch the vibrato here. If that vibrato is too hysterical, that's such a pity, because this is of such pain. And that's not pain. I mean, that's pain for my ears, but that's not pain of My wife just played Tosca a couple of times, and some very famous singer was singing the Mario Cavaradossi, and he's being tortured. And Jonas Kaufmann did it as well, and he was very well tortured. He was like, oh, oh, and this other guy was like, oh, oh, was like a ghost. So the ghost torture. So no, focus on the. And I changed the bow on one of the orchestra chords, so you cannot hear it, because we need the sound. Oh, this has to be in tune. Very dangerous shift. And here, in tempo, and he puts a fermata on the second beat of the next bar. Oh no, on the first beat. On the 2, 3, pom. And now comes this fast movement, where a friend recently told me, oh, it always sounds like as if the cello is late, like, because we are playing he said, it always sounds wrong. And I thought, no, it doesn't sound wrong. But then I listened to it and he was right. It always sounds wrong. So now I practiced it yesterday with trying to give a little bit of emphasis on that. So when, just for anybody who practices that movement, slow goes like this. And don't do the head, Mr. Gerhard. So that's the slow motion. I practice that. I practice it like 130, then 140, 150, 160. Final speed should be something like 160 or 165. What does it say here? 160. Yeah, that's a good speed. Because we have to keep some for the end where he wants an animato and then even faster. So I tried to play it now. Let's see. Well, I had 5 hours of piano, Spanish lessons this morning. So my brain, and I had a 1 hour meeting before that because we want to make a festival in El Escorial, which was supposed to happen this August and it was cancelled due to COVID, but I hope it's going to be something really wonderful. They have ideas of imitating some things of the Verbier Festival, like with a student orchestra playing with wonderful conductors and soloists, and also bringing great jazz musicians and rock. And so it's going to be a multi-facet festival, and I'm in charge, or at least I'm consultant for the chamber music. We had a meeting this morning at 9, so it's a long day already. Anyway, just trying to avoid playing that piece, huh? I tried to now implement my little accents. Let's see how that works. Bum, bum, bum. Almost, huh? Well, it might sound a bit too aggressive here because the microphone is right there, but I promise you, we need the Come on, actually, is the camera well enough? I cannot see my hand move. Oops. I'm moving it, I promise. So we need... that's too little. And I did a video about sautiller, and I'm talking about how to practice sautiller, how to learn sautiller. And sautiller is a bow stroke which starts from the string. So not so. Stop it. A tempo. So that wasn't quite a tempo, but as a tempo as possible. First time. He is writing. Oh God, you don't want to know what he's writing. He's writing a tempo cantabile. So before allargando, but even the first time, I always thought he said something allargando first time. So there's actually, the largamento is only here. But so that is plenty. And I've seen people do the most ridiculous thing. No. It's a gesture part, not tari, the whole bow thing. Anyway, couple of things to cover. So I don't know if you like the idea of. I'm not sure if I like it. You should hit that. That's how you practice it. Stop the bow, stop the bow. Out of tune. I don't have the patience right now. Oh, and I'm not really focused, sorry. This is a... I think it's the best fingering, but it's not really idiot-proof. So, if you go to the lower strings, and I know he doesn't say anything, it's supposed to be pianissimo, but winds are playing. They're quite present, so if we're going... That doesn't do it. So we need the... Where was I? Oh yeah. After that we have the... So here's this little hairpin. That's quite difficult because we... And it shouldn't have time. I just found a much better fingering, but I don't dare to change it now. In 2 days. Oh, so much better. Because this in very high speed, this 1-1 is very dangerous. So I tried once. I swear. I swear I just made that fingering up. So I tried one more time. I don't get the last corner. So the dangerous one is... So it's a thumb, one thumb. Now we will see if it works. Almost, I just don't get the last corner. Last try. Yeah! That's a good fingering. Because we have only 2 shifts. And the great thing is the corner is so difficult. Almost. 9! I lost it. Last try. Then we have to find the 1-1. I practice it. But I try it on Saturday, I promise. and I'll report how it went. Whew, I'm getting thirsty. We have the when. One could take a bit of time here because the orchestra is stopping as well. So I made that up. I remember Pergamenchikov, for whom I played it, he was like, "Oh, I like that fingering," and he wrote it down. So to stay. So to go up the D string, which is actually not difficult. So in tempo, it would be. Almost. I find that very hard, this. And you know why it worked now? Because I was unblocking my shoulder. Even though I do this shoulder thing since 20 years or something, or 15 years, still I have to remind myself for something difficult like... if I said, oh, it's difficult, then I fall short. Maybe there you don't do the same thing, not same thing time again. So I don't know if you heard it, but I took more time this time. So maybe the first time really almost a tempo, and the allegando not super, largamente not super much, but here maybe. So to please the crowd, we take a bit more ta-da. Ti-ta-ti-da-da-da-dum-ba-dum. Ti-da-da-da-da-da-dum-ba-da. Yum-bum-ba-da, yum-bum-ba-da. You know what it says now? Animato! I've hardly ever heard that by a student when he plays it. And I don't know if Jacqueline DuPre is doing it. I haven't heard it in a concert long time ago. Not for a long time. I mean, in a recording. So, bum bum ba da dum bum ba I'm missing my string here because I'm watching myself in the TV there and whatever computer. Man! Yeah, one has to really focus. The hard thing is not the switch to pizzicato. So here a couple of problems. First of all, one really, this movement is actually not difficult at all, but it gets tiring. So one has to practice it quite well. I suggest with metronome, you start 130 and you raise it up to 165 or something, or even 170. The end should be 180. This. And be aware, here the orchestra is always behind. Then they're behind that. Oh, we're behind! Then they start rushing. And that's a disaster because you cannot play faster than super fast. So I always have a little bit of reserve when I feel they're passing me, so I can go a little. But a bigger problem is this one. So guess what I'm going to say now? Banana bow. This is a typical banana bow thing. So we need to come from the air. We have no time to stop the bow. So, not so. We don't have time to stop the bow. If we practice it, I stay in the string here. You see where my bow is quite close to the bridge. We need all the overtones we can have. And now, shout outs to my patron Jacqueline DuPre, sticky bow. After our sautiller, he mentioned the sticky bow when I tried to teach him that this is always kind of sticking into the string. So it's not an accent, it's like suddenly we turn on the super glue function of the bow so that it sucks itself into the string because we want to. Oh god, I cannot sing. So not so. I cannot sing. We have to do it with the bow by switching very quickly from sautiller to super glue. Super sticky. So I'm faking it a little. I play so I'm trying to get into the string very quickly. So one could actually practice it like this. Bad. Last try. And this is also poco allargando, I think, or if at all. No, poco sostenuto. Always these. We don't have. Well, we have the time to do it that short, but it won't sound. So I suggest to go really deep into the string. It's a bad register and we need the sounds to. If that could be in tune would be nice. And watch the vibrato, Gerhard. This has to Ti da da da. And there I'm daring to correct Sir Edward Elgar because he puts a piano for the strings and doing blah, 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 and then their melody ba da di, he suddenly puts pianissimo. And I asked each orchestra I played with to turn it around. I want the pi da di da a bit more, and the 16th note I don't want to hear that much. We need this melody to sound. Also in the at number where is that? Between number 24 and number 25, what I was playing, this. Now, how does it go? The violins have a melody, and this melody has to come out. So they sometimes playing really like. So no, they have to sing it in a very subtle and beautiful way, but not too defensive. So no, defensive is not the right word. Not too much in defense, but a bit more open-minded. And here's the same thing. We're turning back and forth with our. But let's try that again. I'm not very happy how I do this. I have new hair. Maybe I should have put some raisin because I'm not. It's not really connecting well with the string. It's not good. And don't mind the little bit of if it's not super clean. I mean, from a bow, technically. That's too much, but in the overall picture, I challenge you, listen to a concert and you will see this, you will be able to hear, and this you won't. So now I played it much cleaner and with much less effort, but 2 dynamics lower, and I'm sure this won't be heard. But that was bad. So minimal. The horns are changing, ba, bi, ba, something like this. So it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It's just like a little, and then we continue. A little bit of a break, but it's so funny because probably every single musician won't argue with the fact that Carlos Kleiber was the greatest conductor of all times, or one of the very greatest conductors, or maybe the last great conductor, greatest conductor, whatever. But why was that? Because he was, what was so special about him? Because he was so subtle. There was no exaggeration, no needless exaggeration. It was all so tasteful and precious, and he managed these little, like a transition like that. As I mentioned before, often if we say ritardando, then it becomes a huge thing. So he managed to keep a ritardando to a minimum, to a rubato like this, and not like ooh, ooh. It takes really great skill. I mean, that's why I don't conduct, because I'm not a bad musician, as everybody thinks he's not a bad musician, or most think they're good musicians, so I think also I'm a good musician. But to do what I want, I mean, I hardly manage to play what I want. Not talking about to show other people how to do that, how to do it in a subtle way. So this is one of those subtle places. conductor would have to be bam 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 beam 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 bam 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 beam little. It should be easy, but I've worked with good conductors and it's hardly ever working out. Sorry, there's another question. Oh, sorry, no, that was not a question, it was the comment. Thank you very much, that's very sweet. Yeah, okay, let's see. Caroline says, surely as the soloist and lead musician, the orchestra should be following you in view of time. Well, they should, but it is difficult. Those are many people, and there are certain traditions in a piece, like especially in this one, certain expectations, and people react differently. Some person, and they have to think ahead. I mean, they have to anticipate. Collaboration is about anticipation as well. And that's why that's where the conductor comes in. The conductor is very important because he can anticipate, because he talked to me, we have a game plan, and he anticipates what I'm doing. So the orchestra musicians finally have to trust him. I don't know if the Elgar Concerto can be played, I mean, maybe with a small chamber orchestra and everybody is like really on the same page and one rehearses a lot. But otherwise, with one rehearsal, you need the conductor and you need the orchestra to trust the conductor that he does the right things. Because if they don't only trust what they hear, often they're too late. So if they hear my ba-dam-bam-bam-bam and they're reacting, then they're too late because I'm playing syncopations. So yes, I'm the soloist and the lead musician, but it doesn't happen by itself. So I got a lovely message from the conductor, whom I told I would be doing what Elgar wrote, and he just left me a 1.5 minute voice message saying that he was working with a youth orchestra to take Brahms's, they're doing Brahms' Third Symphony, very seriously, and all the details in the score. So he's very grateful that we can continue that journey with the Elgar Concerto, trying to get rid of the traditions. And again, not all traditions are bad, but if especially young people start learning a piece, they should do it without the overload of traditional rubatos. They should come up with their own, and maybe at the end they end up with the same kind of rubato or similar one, but maybe not. Maybe they don't play. Because actually that is a joke. And I'm sure Elgar was many things, but he was not a clown and not a joker. It's British understatement. It's not a carnival. Like Cologne Carnival. If he was a Cologne composer, I could imagine like, "Wah! Allah! Allah!" throwing the bonbons, but no, he was a Brit, so ti-da-ti-ta-ta-da-rum-pa-ta. So with a little maybe superfluous gesture or not superfluous, but that's enough. So I'm supposed to meet some of my Spanish classmates, they're all like half my age, on a rooftop in Madrid right now, before I have to catch a plane in 9 hours. Thanks for watching, sorry for being a little bit incoherent. I will try to do movement 3 and 4 later on, and I try to be in a better shape. But actually I was in good shape, I just don't know. Yeah, it's this, cello playing is not as easy as I thought, so it needs the concentration, and if I focus, then I can play these things. But if I'm talking and presenting, then things go wrong. So I hope I will play the concert better than what I did today. Thanks for watching. All best und tschüss. Oh, are there any questions? Sorry. Any questions? You have time now, otherwise I will be off. And this is far too light, isn't it? So I have this light there. Well, too late now. Thanks and all best.